Vidhammer Fantasy.
Welcome back to Vidhammer. I'm Spudlow, and in this video I'm going over my second round matchup at the Crucible 3 Grand Tournament that was held in Orlando, Florida in February of 2014. In this round, our scenario is Lucky Gnoblars. Each player places their opponent's lucky treasure trove in their own deployment zone. Then we place a single Lucky Gnoblar along with our characters. We get bonus points at the end of the game for getting our Lucky Gnoblar into the treasure trove on the opposite side of the board, and for killing off the opposing Lucky Gnoblar. My opponent went ahead and threw my treasure trove into the forest on his side, so I went ahead and put his into my forest. It sounds a little kinky, but it's not really. It didn't matter much anyways in the end, since we both placed our Gnoblars behind our main lines and proceeded not to move either for the entire flipping game. So just think of this as a battle line for those suffering from ADD. Our terrain elements, there's a charnel pit in the center, which is impassable terrain and gives -1 leadership to anybody within 6 inches, I believe. There's a Nehekaran Sphinx on the bottom right there if you feel like going for the gambit. Both of the forests are mysterious. The hill is an Anvil of Vol, so it gives magical and flaming attacks if you're on it. There's one wall and a sorceress portal up at the top. It gives a random buff at the start of each magic phase. My list is gone over in a separate video, but I'll put the link up for you. For my spells, though, my level 1 Engineer gets Warp Lightning. The level 2 gets Death Frenzy and Scorch, which is great, so my Grey Seer goes for all spells of Plague, and ends up with Wither, Plague, Blessed with Filth, and the dreaded 13th. That's really every spell that I wanted, so I can't feel bad about that. My opponent Josh has Festus, who is a level 2 wizard, as his only caster, that gets Stream of Corruption and Miasma of Pestilence as his spells. The other characters that he has is a Chaos Lord on a demonic mount with the Berserker Sword, so he has Frenzy and he can't lose Frenzy. He has the Armor of Destiny to give him a 1+ armor save on top of his mount, and a 4+ ward save. But since he also has the Mark of Tzeentch, he actually has a 3+ ward save. And he has the third Eye of Tzeentch, so he gets to re-roll his ward saves of a 1. He's a bit of a tank. His only other character is his Exalted Hero, BSB, which he also takes on a demonic mount, with the Talisman of Preservation, and the Mark of Tzeentch, so that's another 1+ armor save and 3+ ward save. But at least that guy doesn't get to re-roll his ones. Oh, but he does have Soul Feeder, so there's a chance that he will regain his wounds when he causes damage. Yeah, I'm looking at that and I'm just like, ouch. For his actual units, he has 2 groups of 5 Warhounds, 2 Chaos Chariots, and 1 Gorebeast Chariot, a unit of 21 Chaos Warriors of Khorne with the Banner of Swiftness to give them +1 movement, and 24 Chaos Warriors of Nurgle with the Gleaming Pennant, so they re-roll their first failed leadership test. And finally, he's got a nice Chimera to polish things off. I put down my Giant Rats, War Machines, and a block of Clan Rats as he puts down his dog units in one of his chariots. Then he puts his Chimera down at the bottom, so I'm thinking that's where the Doom Wheel is going to go, which means putting the rest of my stuff up at the top and making that the side that I'm trying to fight over. So I put my Storm Vermin up at the top, and he throws his Nurgle Warriors up there. I put the Slaves on the lower side of my line, angled towards the upper side, but that's really just for show. There's no way there's enough room to squeeze them around the charnel pit, but he probably realized that anyway. These are all good players at the tournament. The other warrior block comes down, and I put my Clan Rat block down there as well. I don't have much room left at the top, and I want to squeeze my Hell Pit in there without log jamming myself too much. My Doom Wheel goes at the bottom, his last Chariot is the top, and I throw my Hell Pit up there as he does his characters. two of them out in the open on their mounts, which would be great for shooting if I actually thought I could wound any of them. I put my warlord in with the clan rats instead of the storm vermin, so I can keep the slaves from breaking for at least a little while. I have the Grey Seer go in that unit as well, so that he'll be out of combat thanks to the command units in front. The BSB goes with the storm vermin to give them the Skaven Brew, along with the engineer with the Doom Rocket, and I put the level 2 in the lower clan rats, since thinking that he'll help to keep them from breaking, but that's a silly notion in retrospect. Without any shooting, if that block actually flees, more than likely that engineer is already going to be dead. I put the gutter runners right next to the charnel pit. I could use them as vanguard blockers, but there's going to be plenty to shoot at, and I don't want to sacrifice them in this game. He moves up his vanguards, and I win the first turn roll to start things off. The Hell Pit begins the game with the charge of the Light Brigade. Always nice when he can do that. I should really start having this guy just slam into one of my own units for the first couple of turns. But I know if I do, I'm going to roll 1s and 2s for the rest of the game, and he's going to go absolutely nowhere. Well, damned if I do, damned if I don't. Rather be damned if I did. I move up my Warp Fire Thrower to be closer to the Sorcerer's Portal, so I don't end up losing my Hell Pit on round 1. Otherwise, the giant rats offer themselves up, and I turn my slaves toward the south, anticipating the incoming. For the first magic phase, the Warp Fire Thrower ends up getting Speed of Light from the Sorcerer's Portal. Magic is 7 versus 4, and I use the first 3 for Warp Lightning. I, of course, roll a 1 for the wounds, so it backfires and puts a wound on my engineer. The last 4 go for Plague on the dogs, hoping for a possible bounce into Festus's unit, but he dispelled it. Also important to note, I did not jot down what the effect of Skaven Brew was. I believe it was Frenzy, and I believe I got 1 or possibly 2 Warpstone tokens for the start of game elements. Shooting, however, has the Doom Wheel hitting the lower dogs for a whopping 1 wound. I couldn't even get 2 for a panic test. Nicely done there, dude. Both Warp Lightning Cannons shoot for the Chimera, with the first one sticking in the ground and doing nothing, and the second getting Strength 2 and doing nothing. Chariot charges the Hell Pit, and the Chimera charges the Doom Wheel. The Hell Pit can do okay in these situations, but the Doom Wheel really relies on its impact hits and its lightning bolts to do damage, so that one probably isn't going to go very well. Magic is 8 versus 5. He decides to forego magic, and with no shooting, we just move into combat. The Chimera, very much so, lays waste to the Doom Wheel, as expected. In the upper combat, the Hell Pit is able to do his Avalanche of Flesh, which everybody loves so much, and takes out the Chariot. He does take a wound in the process, though. I go ahead and charge the northern front for the second turn. The giant rats have to charge the Chariot to give me room for my clan rats to charge into his uber character, and I have the storm vermin charge the dogs to get them out of the way. I go for a gamble and have the Hell Pit aimed past the Nurgle warriors. I would be giving him a flank charge and a few more attacks at me if I missed, but he actually made an intended distance for once and puts himself out of harm's way for now. Since the Chimera is poised to go after my lower cannon, I have my clan rats move in front of it so he doesn't have room to charge over the top. Magic is 6 versus 2, thanks to a couple of channels. I use the first 2 for Warp Lightning for 1 wound on the Chimera, 2 for Blessed with Filth on the Clan Rats, fighting his Chaos Lord to possibly help out the combat, and I get double 6s. So I roll Snake Eyes for the miscast, though, to make up for it. My Grey Seer doesn't get sucked into the void, but I lose 13 Clan Rats in the explosion, and it puts a wound on the Chariot. And I lose my remaining dice, but that's no big loss there. Also, the Sorcerer's Portal decides to hit my Warp Fire Thrower with a fireball and kill it off just before it was going to take a really nice shot at the Nurgle warriors. Oh well. Both Warp Lightning Cannons shoot for the Chimera. First one hits at Strength 10, and he regen saves it. Second one hits, and I roll a misfire for the second roll, so sticks and no effect. Finally, I have the Engineer cap off his Doom Rocket at the Corn Warriors for 5 wounds. And I forgot about the Gutter Runners. Alright, I have them shoot into the Corn Warriors, able to get 1 wound, just enough to force the panic check, and they fail and run back. So things aren't really looking that bad for me right here. The unknown is going to be my Warlord versus his, but I've got the charge and ranks, so I'm not looking too bad. Unfortunately, I do one of the dumbest things I've done in a long time. I fight the giant rat combat first. I wish I could go back and slap myself for doing this, but oh well. I was thinking that my giant rats were going to be completely wiped out, and since I charged, he wouldn't get an overrun. But after all the attacks, I still have 3 guys alive. I'm not steadfast, but I only lose the combat by 1. Still, even with my general and BSB in range, I fail the re-rollable by 1 because of the stinking charnel pit effect. My rats flee from combat, and he pursues right into the flank of the clan rats. Even though I really enjoyed this game, I did not particularly enjoy this moment, because this was 100% avoidable, and I just made a stupid choice, and it cost me. The Storm Vermin managed to kill off the dogs in their combat. They actually roll enough to make it into combat with the Chaos Lord. That ends up being a flank charge as well. So my Storm Vermin have to close the door now, and I've got a huge flank right there for the Nurgle Warriors. Now we do the central combat, and he gets impact hits on my clan rats, and the chariot gets its normal attacks into my clan rats. I end up losing several more models than I should have. I also should have had my assassin drink his strength potion, since he decided to pop out and accept the Chaos Lord's challenge. The assassin didn't manage to get anything past the ward save. Even with the increased strength he might not have, but he could have. He dies in the retaliation, but he did only take 2 wounds from it, so I would have won this combat by 3, instead of losing it by 1, thanks to the chariot. I'm steadfast, and I passed the break test, but realistically, this was my opportunity to win, and I just made the wrong move. Things progress pretty quickly from here on out. The second chariot charges into the clan rats, and the Nurgle warriors charge into the storm vermin. The Chimera fails the charge against the lower clan rats, so at least they'll live a little longer. Magic is 8 versus 5, and he uses his first 4 for Miasma of Pestilence on his Chaos Lord. I go ahead and dispel this with my scroll. I probably should have rolled my dice at it, realizing what the other spell was, and that this one, the Miasma spell, is actually going to affect my units in combat with his Warlord much more than the other. His other spell actually isn't even any good for close combat, so he just discards those dice. In our one big combat, his general issues another challenge, and I accept with my Warlord. Time to step up, see what you're made of. I should have done this in the first round, since we swing and swear and make rude gestures at each other, and neither of us does a damn thing. Rest of the combat is very different, however, and I lose a lot of clan rats and storm vermin. Both of my units are still steadfast, but I can't do any wounds to the chariots, and my storm vermin are just going to get whittled away to nothing. I passed the break tests, but it's just prolonging the inevitable. Trying not to lose all faith, I have the Hell Pit charge into the Nurgle Warriors' flank, hoping to add at least a little something to the fight. I also move the Gutter Runners up to take some pot shots at the lower chariot. My awesome magic phase this round is 2 versus 1, because that's how I roll. I use both dice for Warp Lightning on the Chimera, and hit for 3 wounds, and he saves them all. Now for shooting, where the Gutter Runners put 3 wounds on the chariot, and he saves all those. Then both Warp Lightning Cannons shoot for the Chimera, the first getting Strength 4 and doesn't wound, and the second one sticking in the ground, no effect. Back to combat, where we continue our challenge of doing nothing. The rest of the combat doesn't go too well since my Grey Seer and the last of my clan rats die, but after the Hell Pit does his normal attacks, it looks like I might have a chance at pulling this one out. It comes down to the Hell Pit's Thunderstomp, and I roll triple ones for it. And we end up tying the combat with the musician on both sides. Now he gets the chariot charge on my Storm Vermin's flank, and the BSB even joins in for the fun, while the Chimera finally makes it into the lower clan rats. Magic is 11 versus 7, and he uses 6 for the Miasma spell and gets Irresistible Force this time, lowering my initiative and weapon skill for both of my units by 2. Festus loses both of his spells in the backlash, but it isn't a remains in play effect, so the spell still sticks around. We run combat for one final turn, and the challenge once again does absolutely nothing. The Hell Pit does some good and actually manages to do enough to keep the combat within reason, so that what's left of the Storm Vermin actually passes their break test. And of course, the Hell Pit then fails his stubborn test and runs away. Whatever, dude. In the end, my opponent ends up 437 points ahead, and neither of us get bonus points for being easily distracted by an epic, although meaningless, challenge. I really enjoyed this game, and my opponent Josh was a lot of fun to play. Hope to see him again soon. Hope you like this battle report. Be sure and check back for more videos each week. Do me a favor and subscribe, like the video if you want to see more, and you can check it out on Facebook and Twitter. Till next time, from Vidhammer, keep fighting.